The continuous saga right now for the Chicago Bulls is what's going to happen with DeMar DeRozan, and can the Chicago Bulls put themselves in a situation to reap some benefits from DeMar DeRozan moving on? We're going to talk about the latest rumor that has DeMar DeRozan talking to the Miami Heat, one that even says the Miami Heat may be expecting an answer within the next 24 hours. We're talking about all and more. You already know what you got to do first. We got to play that intro.
Tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
I see red, I see red, I see red, I see red, yeah, I see red, I see red, I see red, I see.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sir Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So this one comes from Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, and he says this: the Heat have expressed interest in Bulls free agent guard DeMar DeRozan, and DeRozan has also interest in Miami. According to the two sources with knowledge of the situation, the Heat are among several teams in play for the six-time All-Star. So this is another update on DeMar DeRozan and the situation that could go on with him. We also did have that the Lakers have been in talks with it as well. Also, according to Barry Jackson, that the Miami Heat have been talking to DeMar and expect to receive an update in 24 hours. So seemingly, there's no reason to wait. I mean, most teams' cap space is kind of dwindled down. Not that many teams have very much left as far as, you know, the type of money and space left that DeMar DeRozan was originally seeking. And it may come down to the fact that DeMar is just looking at the best situation for him to go out, show himself, and eventually have to take a one-year mid-level exception to get back on the market next year and maybe recoup and get some more money after that. That's where we're sitting right now for the Chicago Bulls and DeMar DeRozan in this saga. It sucks for DeMar. Make no mistake about it. I think DeMar and his agent grossly underestimated what the market was going to look like for DeMar DeRozan this season. And, you know, that's something that we've seen other players do, veterans do, and it's something that really can hurt yourself a lot. If you expect your market to be higher and you under evaluate what your market's going to be, you can be left out on the edges like DeMar DeRozan is, and it is what it is. That's just what it comes down to, man. It sucks. It really sucks for DeMar, not for the Bulls, but it does suck for DeMar that this is the position that he's in. He's in a position where he turned down $80 million to bet on himself, and the market is basically telling you, right? And DeMar DeRozan underestimated just what teams were going to be targeting that did have cap space, right? I'm sure DeMar thought with the way that he's performed, things like that, there are absolutely going to be teams that would want his services. DeMar DeRozan is coming off a season where he was 17th in the NBA in total scoring. It's not like DeMar is having one of those seasons where he was trash. He just didn't have that. He's been DeMar. He's been pretty much himself. And unfortunately, he didn't take the deal from the Chicago Bulls. They go a different route with their roster. And now he's stuck looking on the outside, looking in on a roster that went younger, that he didn't fit, in a league that's looking at DeMar and saying, we are valuing two-way players more right now than what DeMar DeRozan could bring to this. That's where it sits right now. And it's unfortunate for DeMar. Now, the question is can the Bulls help facilitate a signing trade? Shout out to Vaughn, who, I talked to him in a Discord group. He added a different perspective for me on this. So outright, the Bulls can only take about $14 million in a sign and trade scenario, meaning that's basically what DeMar DeRozan can hope for out to get the most he can get out there if the team needs the Bulls to facilitate a sign and trade. Now, if the Bulls were to move Zach LaVine, which doesn't seem like it's a great case scenario, in some of the rumored deals, it could create a little bit of extra space for DeMar to get more towards that $20 million per year. But that, again, would have to say that the other team would have that amount of salary to give up, that they're willing to give up for DeMar DeRozan, which isn't necessarily a given thing either. This should have been, we talked about before, a wake-up call for Zach LaVine with his trade market. This may as well be a wake-up call for DeMar DeRozan as well. DeMar is basically right back in the situation that he was in last time he was in free agency. The only difference is that teams aren't desperate like the Chicago Bulls. DeMar DeRozan faced this very same thing when he was in free agency before the Bulls signed him. But because of the Bulls were desperate to put a team around Zach LaVine to convince him to stay, they wanted to compete, they wanted to jumpstart their timeline, they went after DeMar and offered him way more money than what he was getting offered out there on the free agent market. And this time, the market looked at DeMar, and there aren't any Chicago Bulls that are desperate and desperate enough, I should say, to give DeMar DeRozan the type of contract that he's looking for. And that's just is what it is, man. But yeah. Shay says everybody's expecting the Miami Heat to be the ones to take DeMar DeRozan off our hands, but I'm telling you, look out for Memphis and Golden State. Well, unfortunately, that really can't be them, brother. I get what you're getting at with that, but ultimately, like you gotta look at this is that the teams have to have the space available to do it, and it's not out there, right? So if you look at try to bring up the Golden State Warriors, for example, you brought up Golden State. Golden State Warriors at the most can offer a biannual exception of $4.7 million. Keep in mind, the Chicago Bulls, this isn't at the start of free agency where the Bulls could take back a bunch of salary because they had about, I can't remember, about 20 or so million underneath the luxury tax. They've hard capped themselves. So the Bulls can most take back 14 million. The Golden State Warriors can most is offer 4.7. Again, if it's a signage, if they have contracts to offer, but then you got to hope that it's going to fit within the confines of what the Bulls can take. And then you talked about the Memphis Grizzlies. They only have the taxpayer mid-level exception at 12.8. So I get what you're getting at, Shay, but I think the Golden State Warriors are probably priced out of this right now. Now, I could be wrong. We'll see. Apparently, he's not willing to take the MLE as well, so he has to go with a signing trade. Well, that's the thing. A signing trade isn't going to garner him much back more than the mid-level exception. He can get a little bit more than the mid-level exception. And I'll tell you what, if DeMar's trying to get as much as he can, you better make the other team take back Javon Carter as well. Let's go ahead and get the ball-headed hoe up out of here as well. Now, more than likely, you're probably looking at Torrey Craig, $2.8 million vet minimum. You could probably attach that to him, free up some more space for your forwards, but I would say if you want to get DeMar more money, tell them, hey, you got to take Javon Carter with you. That's what I would think. So, Haize, I think DeMar's gone and rebuild has begun with Ernest, Domas, Giddey, Kobe, P. Will, and the other center free agent. But Domas is probably going to be a two-way contract, so I wouldn't count him. But no, DeMar's gone. There's no if, ands, or but about that. DeMar's not coming back for the Chicago Bulls. I don't even think if the Bulls wanted to, he can't do it. So it is what it is. I'm surprised Philly not trying to get DeMar on a cut of money. Well, unfortunately, Philly's pretty much spent most of their money. They have $9.2 million in cap space. Doesn't seem likely that DeMar DeRozan is going to take that. So what kind of return would you like the Bulls to get in the sign trade? Well, you're not going to get a bunch. So that's the ultimate thing, right? So it's not really going to be anything favorable, so any type of assets back in that case. JDH, I know you like to be contrary, and I know you like to just because that's how you get attention other than eating stripper ass on the daily. But just be quiet, sit down, shut up, watch the video. How about that? $4.7 million. First off, it's my channel, so anything I want to discuss here, I will. Secondly, it is a Bulls issue because these teams will most likely need a signing trade, which would involve the Bulls. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. I know your name's stupid, but you don't have to be stupid just because your parents were dumbasses and named you a name like Troy Solis. I'm just saying. So you don't worry about that. Don't be surprised if DeMar ends up out of the NBA just like Carmelo Anthony. This is DeMar's own fault for not signing the Bulls offer when he had a chance to. I don't feel bad for him at all. I don't think that this is going to be as bad as Carmelo Anthony. I don't. Now, I could absolutely be wrong in that, but I don't foresee that being the case. I'm glad you were clarifying because people think a signing trade is going to give DeMar a ton of money, and it won't. I'm so sad to see him go. I mean, it's just kind of what it is. Unfortunately, it just kind of is what it is at this point. Yeah, it sucks because, like I said before, DeMar isn't this terrible player that can't be productive for some teams. That's just not who he is, and I hate that people act like that, like he is. First of all, props to you, Haize. Always on alert with the Shy Sports News. That's what we're here for, man. Like, that's what we're here. This is where we thrive at in the offseason. You already know what it is. What realistically could the Bulls even get from the Heat in a signing trade for DeMar? Well, I mean, they have to send back some type of salary, right? So that's the first thing. You could get a role player back. You're not going to get anything meaningful back. Like, you're not getting Jovic back. You're not getting Duncan Robinson back. You're not getting anything like that. So more than likely the Bulls, because you're not getting back a big player, the only way to incentivize the Bulls, keep in mind, if a team needs a signing trade to get DeMar the money that he wants, the Bulls hold the leverage in that case because they don't have to sign and trade him. He's gone either way. So if the Bulls said, let me get a couple of those seconds off you, my boy, that's what the Bulls can get. Now, is that something great? No, but the fact is that if you do get any assets back, those are assets you can include in other deals. Maybe you want to package your 2 seconds to move up or something like that. So we'll see what it comes down to. But I mean, just looking at the Heat's salary cap here, it's not a whole lot of contracts. I mean, they have cap space, so they don't have to send the exact salary back. They just have to send something back. So it could be maybe a Josh Richardson, which again, not something that I'm saying I would be head over heels for. Maybe Orlando Robinson. They do have some second round picks that they can include as well. So it's basically just getting incentive. The Miami Heat have 2 second round picks in 2026, one in 2025 that can be moved. So something like that. Petty wants this DeMar situation done. I mean, at the end of the day, I do kind of just want it done just so the story can be done, right? And don't get me wrong, like it's of course it's great for the channel to constantly have rumors and stuff to talk about when it comes to DeMar DeRozan, but ultimately, I'm ready to see. Now we know primarily what this roster is going to look like. We're 14 players into a 15-player roster, right? We know what this roster is going to look like for the most part. But I'm ready for this stuff just to be done so we can move forward. Everybody can focus on what they need to do. I'm liking the moves AK has made so far this offseason. Yet there's still work to do, but it's a good start. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and when you go to restart, rebuild your roster, reconstruct your roster. That's a better word there. There's going to be some rough spots, right? Rough years, rough seasons. But I think I like what he's done as far as adding some value to the team and adding young players to this team. Heat fan here. Somehow I say they work out some sort of deal. I mean, it's definitely possible that they work out some deal. And it's possible that they work it out without a signing trade as well. So if DeMar is going to leave, who's going to replace him? I mean, we're going younger. You don't have to replace. We already got our small forward of the future. It matters Busilis. So the team's going to replace him because at that point, everybody else, all the young players are getting more opportunities. Development's going to replace him because we're focused on developing at that point in time. I saw something that once finds a team, the Bulls with 100% go in and try to. Well, it didn't say 100%. So go back and read that because I did see that as well. But it did say that if the Bulls do move on from DeMar DeRozan, the Bulls will look for trades for Nikola Vucevic. At this late stage, it may be difficult. We'll see, but it makes sense. It makes sense. But either way, DeMar's gone. That's the thing that's weird about it. DeMar's gone either way. There's no way that the Chicago Bulls can bring back DeMar DeRozan unless he's willing to take $9 million to come back here. That's it. So, I mean, if he does that, cool. But hey, I'm just playing on the Bulls. Just playing on the Bulls lowers your value. I mean, especially with where the Bulls have been so far. Yeah. Anyone else just hyped to maybe so some baby Bulls going with Kobe, Io, Williams, Jalen, and Sanogo. We ain't that bad place, really. We got some great young guys. First of all, we got some solid young guys. We're in that bad of a place as far as wins. That team you just mentioned isn't winning a bunch of games. They're going to be fun to watch. This is going to be a fun Bulls team to watch. You also didn't mention Josh Giddey in that, right? You didn't like so you're going to see some of those guys. We don't know if Sanogo is going to be on the final roster or not, but you know it is what it is. Haize knows them well. I got no legs and tells me to shut up and sit. I honestly didn't even think about that. That's crazy. That's wild. Kings are a dark horse for DeRozan, and deal for the Kings will be coming soon. No, that the guy who said that just really be talking. That's why I didn't even put DeMar in a Kings jersey on here. That ain't worth talking. Zach still on the team start of the season. It's seeming like that. That it's seeming highly likely that Zach LaVine is still on the Chicago Bulls roster when the season starts. So Wiseman signed elsewhere. And why would you want Wiseman on this team anyway? Zach still on this team start. I already answered that one. Yeah. It's about time we hit the reset button and actually try to rebuild for once. Well, we have tried to rebuild a couple of times. The fact of the matter is that they don't see it through, or they just do it stupidly. So drag for flag. That's crazy. That's wild. Hero and Caleb Martin signed and traded in exchange for DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. I don't think the Heat do that. Like, I don't see why the Heat would do that when they already got Khalil Ware, who actually fits really next to Bam Adebayo. And why limit your offense? Like, you already need 3-point shooting. You're going to send one of your best 3-point shooters for a mid-range guy. I mean, maybe the Heat do that. I'm not as ingrained with the Heat in and out, so I won't even act like I'll know what their motivations are. That seems a little weird to me as far as fit wise, but I guess we'll see there. Will Lonzo be on the team at the start of the season? That's actually a really good question. I think it seems like it's likely. That doesn't mean that it is, but it definitely seems like it's likely. People want Rui Hachimura, but we don't need another wing. Yeah, we really don't need another wing. We don't, but hey. Thoughts on Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry this upcoming season? I hope that they very much so earn their roles, and I hope that they are given opportunities if they play well and they keep playing well. Julian Phillips really was starting to come along towards the end of the season when he started getting consistent minutes, but then he went down with a foot injury. Dalen went from being a player that looked completely uncontrolled at all times to a player that you could see him fitting out into a role player of the NBA. So I think the Warriors should trade for Levine for some seconds to replace Clay. Well, they had an opportunity to trade him for a package around Chris Paul and said no. So I doubt that's going to happen. So that's what I think. ZH, you got no legs, and I got fucked up legs. Let's get a team and make ourselves great again. Like Don. Wow. Wow. Okay. Having Zach on the roster is so taxing for this organization at this point. His contract sucks and limits so much of what the Bulls can do. I get why they signed him, but in retrospect, it's not good. I mean, that's the downside with you got to take a risk, right? This opportunity to Pat Will to show us he's better than a 3-and-D player. Yeah, he's going to get a lot of opportunity this year. As long as he's healthy, he's going to get a lot of opportunity, and so hopefully we'll see. Mo Bamba, you haven't really paid attention to signings, have you? Mo Bamba signed elsewhere. I can't remember what team he signed. And Bo, at this point, no, it's not worth the risk. Like, why we got to keep being like, we've already seen a bunch of teams give him a try. It's not there. It's silly. Easy Cooks, fair enough. I think the Warriors would just be good with Levine, but your logic makes sense. Yeah, and listen, it's not. I think that Levine could fit on the Warriors. Like, I think that going to a team with that type of structure and coaching could actually help him. But I'm just going off of what it seems like that they may not be interested there. Shout out to Brazil for cooking Vooch today. You know, it's crazy that Cristiano Felicio is one of y'all the best players in y'all country, but shout out to them. But all right, y'all. I love you guys, man. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in to this random live stream. You guys already know when news drops, we drop. So we'll see what else comes down the pipeline for the Chicago Bulls today, man. I love you guys, man. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See Red, y'all. Y'all see me again at least tonight.